Okay, hello again. As I said yesterday in the Facebook Live last night on Wednesday, I am going to be jumping in the group over the next few days with more information about the group program that I announced yesterday. But today, actually, I'm not going to talk about the program. I wanted to talk more generally about the challenges that I see people experiencing and the biggest blocks that are preventing us from moving forwards and achieving that one step or achieving those goals that would so like to achieve. So do jump in with any questions. I haven't told anyone about this time, so I'm not expecting a lot of you on the live video. But if you watch this recording, then I'd love to get your comments, questions, things that resonate with you, places you're getting stuck, and how you think I might be able to help you there as well. So I'd love to do that. But these are challenges that I see over and over again people experiencing. So over sort of the last 5 years since I left my job and kind of started this journey back in 2013, I've come across so many people, friends, clients, other coaches, people in the media space, almost every time I go out somewhere and talk to someone who's experiencing these various blocks. And certainly I have experienced them too, and mostly have worked through them, but it's an ongoing journey, of course, and some of these things will take a lot of time. So I want to talk about these 5 things that can block you. And the first thing, I guess I wanted to share a little bit more about my story. If you've been following me for a while, you've read some of my articles, you may know at least parts of my experience. But the way I tell it is that I was always that good girl, had good girl syndrome. I grew up in quite a strict British education system. I followed along with sort of conventions. I did as I was told. Maybe my teachers won't agree with me there, but certainly generally I got good grades and I did what I was supposed to do and so on. And that involved then going to good university, getting a good job and so on. So very rational, very sort of demure and doing, what I was supposed to do and living up to expectations. And I guess also to some extent a people pleaser, as a lot of us are, I think, in particular women, but very much looking to other people to sort of validate what I should be doing. And something kind of happened in that I studied one thing and I ended up in a completely different career that I knew nothing about, that I didn't necessarily have a passion for. As it happened, I was in a fantastic company, great salary and benefits. That acceptance letter with the salary was certainly very attractive when I first got that after my studies. Above all, met the most amazing people who I still keep in touch with, who I'm still friends with, and a fantastic professional network as well. And that work has really opened doors to things since then. So all this to say that I never sort of regretted or hated my job in any way, and by any means, and I could very much have continued there ongoing, sort of. I guess I could still have been there now, but for a few different things. And I guess what happened, so I was 7 years in this company, and fundamentally I kind of went around to people and I told myself that, I didn't really want to be here. I'd studied this, I want to do that, and so on. And it can be quite soul destroying to go for a long time kind of not feeling like you're in the place where you want to be or where you should be, and really just feeling a bit disconnected, I guess, with that ultimate impact of what you're doing. And I didn't feel I was making an impact. So learning a lot, having fun, work hard, play hard, and all that, and great opportunities. But I guess it just felt not quite what I wanted to do. But I had, and that's the topic of the video today, I had a lot of things that were blocking me. And the first one that I want to talk about is fear. The fear of making the wrong choice, the fear of looking stupid in the eyes of other people, and fear of taking lots of crazy risks and so on. Other things that blocked me were not knowing what it was I wanted to do instead, not knowing how to do it, not having any idea how to move forwards or do anything different. But for reasons, I guess, unknown to me, really, if I look back, something kind of happened. It was a few conversations that sparked this in my head, I guess, in my heart, and things kind of worked out fortuitously that my assignment came to an end at a time when there wasn't an obvious next step for me. And so my boss permitted me, I said, approved my 3-month sabbatical that I asked for. And even there, I had so much fear. It was such a scary thing to go off to South America. I didn't speak very much Spanish first time traveling by myself. And even lots of South American people said to me, oh, you're so brave, it's so dangerous, and so on. And obviously being sort of a little blonde woman, it was quite a big thing for me at the time. And I was scared, and people told me I should be scared, and so on. Something that's interesting there, of course, is that when people are telling you that, there's all these dangerous things and risks, and you shouldn't do that and shouldn't do this, often that is them projecting their own fears and concerns. So it's not about you, it's about them. But nonetheless, a lot of fears tied up in that. But the amazing thing is, once I'd taken that step, my goodness, when I landed in Quito, Ecuador, I was just over the moon. I was so ecstatic that I had taken this decision, empowered to have actually changed my life, even, in a very small way. And I'd actually made this happen. And I had the most amazing time, of course. And travel, is a great way to get a different perspective on things, meet other people. And of course, that 3-month sabbatical that seemed like a very long time for me and paled in comparison to other people who I met who had quit their jobs indefinitely, been made redundant, taken 6 months, 2 years off, retirees, older, younger, and all sorts. So that really opened my mind to all these different possibilities. But still, making the decision to leave the stability of my work and so on behind was caught up with a lot of fears and concerns. And again, that good girl kind of looked to other people to validate my choices. To say that, yes, you should quit your job and you should try to pursue something else. And of course, some people did that and some people didn't. And ultimately, I knew sort of deep down in my heart, which is a strange thing to say for a lot of us who are very rational, we should be using our brains and so on. But certainly I had that feeling, and I eventually sort of listened to that feeling. But again, another concern for me was clarity on what it was I wanted to do. So I had vague ideas around, I want to be a writer, I want to start my own business and so on. But I didn't really have a clear plan as to what it was I was going to do. And that led me onto all sorts of sort of detours along the way. Again, having fantastic experiences, but not necessarily landing on, the big thing that I had initially, I guess, quit my job for. Another thing that I experienced, I think, was that kind of black and white thinking of, either I'm in this kind of successful corporate job with the stability and salary and so on, and I don't like it, or I'm off traveling the world and I have no money and I'm happy but poor. And that kind of binary thinking can be a big block as well. And then, finally, another block, I guess, for me was, I'll do it when, or I can't do it now because, or, maybe next year. And I just kept putting it off. So I was kind of half-heartedly applying to some jobs at the UN and some different digital jobs, which is, digital marketing is sort of my area of expertise. But, I wasn't really committing to it because I just wasn't motivated. And if you don't have that clear goal to work towards, of course, you're not going to sort of break out of that natural sort of comfort zone and flow that you're in. So those are a few of the things I experienced, and I summarized that in just a few minutes. But of course, as I said, it was 5 years ago that I took my sabbatical, almost exactly, and a little bit more than little less than 5 years since I quit. So certainly that took a number of years after leaving, and it's been a long and arduous journey to get to the point where I am today. So these are not things that happen overnight, but all this to say that, I am by no means an entrepreneurial risk taker. Anyone who knew me before certainly would have said so. And now people say, oh, you're so daring and brave and crazy, maybe even, and creative and all these things. But, that wasn't in my nature in a way, or maybe it's in everyone's nature, I don't know. But certainly I'm not some kind of unique case of one in a million who can leave a corporate job and go off and create something more interesting. Babbled on enough about my experience, and I wanted to dig a little deeper into these 5 challenges that I mentioned. And the first one that I'm always talking about, that you guys are always talking about, that I'm hearing a lot, is fear. And it is the fear of failure. Of course, tied up in this idea of success and that we've inherited, that generally in most of our societies is about having that stable job, 6-figure salary, having the big house, the car, luxury travel. It evolves over time, but certainly there is an ideal of that kind of definition of success that we should be attaining. And it's very hard if we have attained that level to leave that behind, because there's prestige attached, there's respect from our colleagues, it's the familiarity of what we know. And, there's lots of benefits to having a nice salary and respect from our colleagues and, a big name company behind us. So we definitely shouldn't trivialize those things, and definitely not judge or criticize anyone for valuing those things as well. But it's important to recognize if we really do value those things, and if perhaps there are other things that we value. And if so, maybe that definition of failure shifts. And it's not about failing if that's not the goal that you're working towards anyway. So the first one being fear, as I said, fear of failure. Another one, fear of people judging you, fear of looking stupid, fear of making mistakes, and so on. And, other people judging you is a tricky one. I guess the important question to ask there is, who are these people who are judging you? And do you care if they're judging you? I.e., are these important people in your life? In which case you may want to listen to them, at least listen respectfully, and then you can make your well-informed decision. Or are they strangers that you have nothing to do with, and actually doesn't really matter to my life if they validate my choices or not. So it's important there to differentiate who are these others who are judging you. And then the fear of making the wrong choice, and this is huge. And this was a massive insight for me quite recently, and from one of my clients as well a few weeks or months ago. And the big liberating statement is, dum dum dum, there is no right answer. So we worry about making the wrong choice, we worry about finding the right decision, and most of us, use rational ways of doing that, pros and cons and tables and talking to people. And the reality is, we will never have complete information and knowledge about all the different paths. We just don't know. It's impossible to compare them anyway, because it's not so objective. There's emotional things tied up. It's all sorts of factors and things, and parallel lives that you can never go back and kind of see unless you have some kind of time machine or do that sliding doors thing to compare different paths. So there is no right decision, and likewise there's no wrong decision. Which means you can stay in this job, and that's absolutely fine. It means you can leave the job, and that's fine too. It means you can start a business or not start a business. It means you can start this business or that business. It means you can start a business and then abandon it. It means you can start a business and grow it into something massive. So all of these options are there on the table, and it's really for you to decide what you want to do. And I think that really takes off a lot of the pressure from making the one right decision and asking everybody for advice and trying to get 100% or near 100% information, because that doesn't exist. So, let go of that pressure to find that right answer and allow yourself to explore and learn. And yes, perhaps experience failure in some way or another, at least some disappointments, but that's sort of part of life. And that's how we, explore and learn things. So that first block being fear, it's a big one, but a few ideas there in terms of how you can break that down and perhaps reframe your perspective. The second challenge I want to talk about is the black and white thinking and this kind of binary thinking, really, of the extremes. So as I mentioned in my story, we tend to think that either you have money or you work on your passion. Either you have stability and the security of a job, or you have completely risky existence with no framework, no stability at all. Either you're successful or you're not. And the truth is that there are all sorts of shades of grey between these extremes. And rather than shades of grey, I would even say all the shades of the rainbow, right? So you can choose all sorts of different stages. There are all sorts of phases and constellations between these extremes. So that's, again, some good news, because it means you don't have to go from, for example, hating my job right now, but earning a load of money, to loving my job and earning no money. And probably you're not going to be able to do that anyway. And probably the truth is somewhere in between. So you will like the next job a little bit more, and might earn a little bit less. You might start a business that earns you more money than you think, or a bit less money than you think. You might actually be able to earn more money running your own business than you would if you're in a stable job. Someone pointed out to me a few months ago that, by definition, an employer will never pay you what you're worth, because if they did, they wouldn't make a profit. So that's something to think about, that actually having your own business and in fact having multiple revenue streams is really the recommended way, and the way of, I think, most successful entrepreneurs in the world. The big Richard Branson's and Elon Musk's and so on, diversified portfolio of different income streams. So, challenging that binary thinking, it's so hard when your dream is way over here and you're way over here right now. That's such a massive leap to take. And again, you don't have to, you can't, and you probably shouldn't try to leap for that high branch, because you may well fall, but rather climb gradually, maybe take some detours. It's not going to be a straight route. But certainly there's a broad range of different options between those two extremes. So that's black and white thinking, another thing to look out for. And the third one, it's another thing I talk a lot about, is clarity. And it's such a big one. And it's so odd, because we sort of feel like we know that we don't want to do this, but that kind of, okay, but if not this, what next, is much harder. And some of us are lucky to have had a passion for their entire life, always wanted to be a dancer or whatever it is, a fireman. Okay, when we're younger, we have these more sort of concrete dreams. I want to be an astronaut or an actress and so on. But some people do have those long-lasting, sort of very deep passions, and they're super clear on what they want to do. So they're even happy to give up a lot of the money and stability to pursue that dream. And for most of us, I think we're not that fortunate. Again, most of us who are smart and capable and so on and determined can actually do basically whatever we want to do. And that makes it hard, because if we can do whatever we set our mind to, it means it becomes all the more important to choose something that's really going to be fulfilling and fun, and that's going to make us happy. So that's a good thing, and also a bad thing in a way. But clarity on knowing what you want. And it's not about having, this is the exact job description I want, this is the exact business and title and income and so on. It's more about the bigger picture, sort of the criteria, both in terms of, I want to feel fulfilled, I want to have those bigger kind of things, my values anchored and so on, and this is how I want to feel and so on. But on the other hand, also more practical and pragmatic concerns in terms of the hours you want to work, the flexible time and working from home, seeing your family. I want to be able to travel, I don't want to travel so much, and all these things. So thinking about what it is you're hoping and working to get out of your career and business, and getting clarity on that kind of framework is the first step. Then, of course, eventually you'll need to narrow down your options, you'll need to validate different business ideas, you'll try things, and take off a little bit in terms of, I need to know my one passion now and go off and pursue it. Because that can be quite dangerous. I think we trick ourselves into thinking something's going to be the amazing solution, and perhaps it's not. And again, there's grey areas or sort of rainbow areas. And we also don't want to just kind of think, okay, this is what I want to do. I love wine, and I'm going to go off and do this wine sommelier course, and it takes 2 years and it costs all this money. And then 2 years later, you come out and think, oh, actually, yes, it's fun, but it's not something I want to do full time. And that's another danger with passions, by the way, because you may love taking photographs, you may like acting or whatever it is. It may be a very different thing to do that as a full-time job. Certainly a lot of the creative work, if you add in all the accounting and the stress of selling and so on, that can unfortunately sort of ruin it a little bit for you. So even if you think that you have a clear passion, that's not necessarily what you want to move forwards with. But so lack of clarity on what it is we want to do can stop us from moving forwards. The next one is that you may know what you want to do, but you don't know how to do it. You may have an idea, but you've never started a business before. You don't really have sort of a network in this area. You just don't really know how to get started, essentially. And that can be a big block too. And the truth is, of course, you don't know how to do it because you've never done it before. And that's perfectly fine, but you will learn. And it's an evolution. We learn as we go, first of all. Secondly, there are far more transferable skills, experiences, expertise, networks, and so on from previous roles that you can take with you. So you're never, even if you make a big change, you're never starting from scratch. And if you compare now to when you started out in your career, 10, 20, 30 years ago, you have so much more experience, you're in such a strong position. Unfortunately, we lose our confidence as we grow older and we think this is all we can do. But the reality is very different. And if you start to look at what you can actually do, if you tried something, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised as to all the things that you can do. So the truth is, yes, there are a lot of things you don't know. The second thing is, actually, there are a lot of things you do know and you will be able to do. And thirdly, you will find out if there are things you don't know, you will fill those skills gaps. So you will sign up to a course, or you'll outsource it, or you'll join a program, you'll get a mentor, whatever it is. But there are ways to learn. So don't rule something out just because you can't right now see the obvious route or the obvious path to achieving that. Sometimes we think we're getting stuck on the how, and actually we haven't done that sort of due diligence on the what. So if we know what it is we want and why, then it's very easy to get caught up in that how, and to lose sight of what we're doing. And I might rule out lots of ideas simply because I'll never manage that, and I don't have the network to do this, and I need that person or connection or skill. And it's not the how that's the problem, it's that you don't have that clear goal, vision, and you're not motivated to do that. Once we know what we want, as I said, we're smart, capable people, we will be motivated, we will manage, we will succeed, we will make it happen. But we need to make sure that the goal itself is what we want to do in the first place. So the final block I wanted to talk about was the procrastination of saying, not right now, putting it off until another time, maybe next year, I'll do it when I have more money, I've got this promotion, I've lost some weight, next year when this, that, and the other, I've moved, and all these things. And the truth is that time was probably never going to come. Sorry to be blunt, but the reality is, if not now, when? There are all those quotes about you should start things before you're ready. The time will never come when you're 100% ready and prepared. So you have to do it now. And the thing is that the sooner you start, the more time you'll have to work through it, the more time you'll have to build your confidence, to explore your options, to try things, and eventually to succeed with something. Within business, for example, the work I do, and I often talk about the fact that I wrote an article right at the beginning of this journey, and they got picked up like a year later after I'd written it by some publications, and still now, sort of 4 or 5 years later, generates a lot of traffic, interest, and so on. And that's one article, but everything I've written has taken time to build up, of course, in search results and so on. I've kind of refined, I guess, my message and my voice. I've learned what people are looking for. I've had so many people respond to me and give me their feedback and so on. Experience from my own journey has evolved, talking to other people, my clients, and so on. So, starting sooner rather than later is the best thing to do. And actually, it takes the pressure off again, and it makes it easier. If you keep putting it off, then you're sort of expecting it to be this perfect, amazing thing. And I had a conversation with a client a few months ago, I think just before Christmas, that was so powerful. And we were talking about, and I think the way she describes it was, you have this perfect dream that's kind of in pristine condition, it's a glass bauble. For example, in my case, I always said I wanted to be a writer, and I had this little dream of being a writer, and it sat there on the shelf, perfect, beautiful, untouched. And in that way, I could continue dreaming that this was possible. I will do it eventually. I'll quit my job and I'll live on an island somewhere. I'll write. I'll be a best-selling author. All these thoughts, I don't know, some conscious and subconscious. But it lives on the shelf over there. And to some extent, that's satisfying because it's so beautiful, it's so perfect that there's nothing can sort of ruin that. No publisher will reject my book because I'm not even writing a book. They won't not sell because I'm not even going to sell. All these things, you can't fail if you don't even do it. So that kind of leaving your dream on the shelf there can be quite tempting and alluring. But what if you take it off the shelf, dust it off, break it into pieces, and then put it back together in a new constellation that perhaps you hadn't expected? And when you start doing that, at first it can be a bit shocking. It's not as sort of amazing as you thought. It's the same thing with dating. You've seen a gorgeous picture of someone or seen them in a bar or something. When you start talking to them, they may not be as perfect as they looked. But you get to know their other sides, their imperfections. You love all different aspects of them. And that's what happens with this dream. Or in fact, let's take the other case. Maybe you find that you don't like them. You no longer like this dream. You don't want to be a writer anymore. And that's fine too. And you've learned that you can sweep away the bits and move on. Plenty more fish in the sea. So this is all about actually giving it a go. Why not try? See if this actually is your big dream, in which case that is amazing. Start the journey now, and you can move towards that goal. And the sooner you start, the more likely it is that you'll manage to do whatever it is you want to do. Or by all means, find out that it's not something you want to do, push it to one side, and then you can go back with intentionality to knowing that, I've tried this, worked out it wasn't for me, and now I'm doing this and I'm really happy. But it's all about that choice. Intentionality is a word I use there, but making the choice, blue pill, red pill, as they say in Matrix. do I want to do this or not? Because the most soul destroying thing, and I started the first video with this by saying that, you know, for me, being in one job and looking out the window and dreaming of this other theoretical, at least, existence, it is soul destroying. It breaks you down, it wears you down. It's not good for your health, you're not delivering your best work, and ultimately you're not going to be happy. So it's so important to make that choice. Either, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to find out what I need to find out, I'm going to partner with whoever I need to partner, I will put in the work and I will make it happen. I will try. Or, no, I don't want to do it, and that's absolutely fine too. It's too risky, or I just don't want to do that. Actually, I'm pretty happy where I am, and then sort of, I don't want to say be resigned to that, but I mean rather actually be really comfortable and happy with where you are, because that's incredibly empowering. The point here is just to make a choice. Don't let these sort of dreams go kind of unlistened to, all these ideas and things. Sometimes, yes, they need some time to mature, and you know, by no means should you be rushing into something when you're not sure, and all these things I've talked about, the fears, lack of clarity and so on, are important to work through, but so important to give yourself that chance, or to say, you know, be kind to yourself and say, you know what, it's not a priority right now, and that's fine too. And I think that's incredibly empowering and freeing and fulfilling ultimately, rather than, you know, sort of telling yourself the story that you should be doing something else and not doing anything about it. So those are the 5 things I wanted to talk about in terms of the fear, the black and white binary thinking, the lack of clarity, not knowing how to do something, and also that last one, you know, I'm missing this, I'll do it when, and so on. I'd love to hear from you guys if these are things that you've experienced. Certainly, as I said, I have, and sometimes I continue to experience some of these. But I hope you've also got a few ideas and insights as to how you might think about these things in a different way, reframe your perspective a little bit, and maybe move past some of these blocks and move into the next stage of exploring, trying, learning, and so on. So I hope that was useful to you. Not too pessimistic with all these blocks, but I think it's better to sort of put them out there, take that dream off the shelf, dust it off and break it apart, and then see what we can create together. So that's it for today. I'll see you back in the group tomorrow. I'll be talking a bit more, sorry to keep things negative, but a bit more about blocks and things that can hold us back, and possible objections in particular to moving forwards with these ideas, and the programme specifically as well that I announced yesterday. I look forward to seeing you then, if you can join me then. So as ever, lots of success today and this week, whatever that means for you, and I look forward to seeing you in some form or another very, very soon. Bye for now.